Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good to see you all. I should probably reposition my mic a tiny bit so I can be heard. Well, it could also be heard being a responsible adult. Listen to this. Wow. Haven having breakfast for once? Imagine that. Bah. Cereal ASMR. I mean, it's food in the morning, but it's a carrot. It's a carrot. I'm gonna unmute. Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
I was typing in all caps when you were unmuted.
Clickety clackety clack. Bait and switch. You wanted udon, now you get munch noises. Uncooked udon.
Mmm.
Delicious. Obviously, Lottie. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Silly elf. Alrighty.
Right.
We forgot today's Father's Day. We're gonna have to delay.
Oh, fuck.
Oh, no. That is why I called my dad early this morning.
Oh, that's
I'm gonna
nice.
call him after the stream because he's probably not even awake yet on a Saturday.
Yeah,
Sunday.
we're gonna be doing stuff later. But yep, for now I am here, and I am ready to learn. Ooh, excuse me.
All right. So, shall we get the introductions out of the way?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, everyone. This is a tutorial on how to use Udon, specifically Udon Sharp, for VR chat mapping. Note that this is mapping only, and not for avatars. That's an entirely different can of worms we're not covering here. However, Udon is a very, very powerful version of a scripting language that allows you to do a whole lot of stuff within VR chat. Like you can make little mini games, or you can just make little utility objects that automates the DMing for you. It's a lot of stuff, and it's going to be it's going to go pretty fast. But if anyone is, this is my nerdery right here. So if I'm speed talking out the wazoo, just shout and chat, slow the fuck down, Waffle, and I'll get the message.
One of the nice things is I'm, one trying to apply a lot of what they're talking about. So, if I'm being the big dumb, if I'm representing the, the other users here who need to go, hold up, wait, slow down, I don't get it, help! I'm here to be that guy.
Yep. All right. So yeah, I am WaffleSlapper. I'm a mod for Haven, and I also do a lot of this world stuff. And Esarai, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
I am Esarai. I primarily work in VR chat for model making and asset making, but I do AI programming professionally for a big game studio. And given that, I figured I have done some stuff with Udon before for that, so we figured we'd team up and get this on the road. And since there are two of us, we are going to be switching off back and forth. When one of us is in control, I think the other one will be trying to field questions from chat. And yeah.
Sounds good.
Sounds
right,
like that's working pretty well. Right as I finish my last carrot.
All right, I'm going to be putting a Discord link into chat real quick for those of you who have not already followed the getting started steps that I posted in the VR chat channel. If you're in Haven's Discord, this should work pretty well, hopefully. If not, just look at announcements. There's a link there. Anyway, so you should have at this point. Oh yeah, Esarai did work on the Mac and the Mac Mark II. Those are his models.
Yep.
They look very good. He's very good at what he does. And also, at the end of this tutorial, I just remembered, Esarai has a little surprise for us.
Oh, all right.
Esarai, do you want to give that away now, or you just want to save it for last?
I think let's save it.
Okay.
Dessert at the end.
Yeah, dessert. So, if you followed the getting started steps, you'll have seen that I had you download Unity, I had you download Visual Studio Community Edition, and I had you download a couple of Unity project or Unity packages, mainly for getting this working. One sec.
Here we go. I can bring up that
Um,
actual list right here on Discord. Pretty simple up. Correct version of Unity for VR chat, Visual Studio, then this studio here. Udon Sharp is the one we need to get from. First, we also have to download the VR chat SDK 3. So that won't take too long.
Yep, that one requires a VR chat account, but if you don't already have an account, that's at what was the trigger level, like user instead of visitor or whatever, then it won't let you upload anyway. So that's just VR chat's weirdness. Anyway, so what you're gonna want to do, I'm actually going to start a new project so you can see this from scratch. So if you tune into my Discord stream real quick.
Right. Here we go.
Yeah. The thing you're going to start with is the that is Esarai's screen.
Yep. Bring up yours. I've been disconnected.
Yes, Paul, this
Fantastic.
will be up on YouTube when we're done, within 24 hours, or after 24 hours. So this is the Unity Hub. You would have downloaded this when you downloaded Unity. To start a project, you're going to hit New. You're going to give it a name. Just going to go, make sure that you're loading with Unity 2018.4.20f1. That is the version that, yes, my Discord icon is great. I love it. But yeah, this is the the Unity version, rather. Thanks, Violet. That VR chat is using.
Mm-hmm.
So just put in a name, give it a location, hit create. And after some amount of time, Unity will finally figure itself out.
Got it. So that's starting up. When I downloaded the SDK 3. And GitHub right here from Udon Sharp, whatever version. This I will grab as well. Which is right here. And to download off of Git, so like downloading off of GitHub confuses me from time to time. And this one particularly, you just click on the Unity package right here, yeah?
Yeah. This one's just a release, so you don't have to deal with any sort of version control software.
Nice. And the last one is the tutorial assets.
Yeah,
and once again, this can all be found in the VR chat channel on my Discord. There's a link to it in announcements, so you don't have to scroll forever.
All right, Unity has finally figured itself out on my screen.
Very nice.
Probably, Lottie. We have a lot to cover, and it's probably going to be a lot of fun, hopefully. So now that you have the Unity project started, you have this big empty nothing that you usually get with Unity. So you want to go to Assets on the top bar here, Import Package, Custom Package. And then you want to go to wherever the hell you put your shit. In my case, it's my projects directory. And you want to grab the VRC SDK 3 world file. And just double click that and it'll load in.
Is it on, aren't you also able to drag and drop it in?
You can. I usually just...
Woo!
Right?
God, rude sneeze.
Suddenly.
Bless you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so yeah, I just normally go through there so I can actually navigate to where I need to be without opening new Explorer windows, because I actually organize my shit.
Yeah, if you're like me and you don't organize anything, then look, okay, not true. I don't not organize anything. I'm gonna drag and drop.
Oh, I thought that was on the stream. My little import package thing was on Twitch. So I thought that was on your screen and not mine. Yeah,
Can't-
just make sure all this is checked. Just hit all and then import. And that's going to take a while. So you're going to want to follow the same steps with Udon Sharp as well.
Right. Dragon Udon
So-
Sharp.
Okay, so we go
I'm assuming that
faster.
we're going to want to do the same with the tutorial assets as well, of course.
Yes.
These 3 Unity packages we got, we'll be dragging and dropping them in, or importing them the way he does.
Yes. So while that's all processing for you guys, I'm going to go over this real quick. So you're probably asking yourself, Waffle, you dipshit. Ezra, you beautiful person. Why the hell did you have me download a 10 gigabyte IDE to work on VRChat? If you don't know what an IDE is, look it up. It's just a big text editor, whatever. So the reason for that is that Udon itself comes with this really silly node graph thing. So if I wanted to, say, make one of the scripts we're going to be working on next with Esarai, I would go create myself a new Udon VRChat Udon graph. Just call this teleport. And I'd open that up. Attempt to open that up. Fucking load. Please. Oh, duh. Hit the wrong button. Anyway, so you have this big empty field that doesn't have anything in it. It's really kind of obtuse to get things in. So to make a teleporter, we need a variable. In this case, we want the target, so we need to figure out a game object. Name it something like target. See if I remember how to do this. So you need to create a node. You need to look for it. So we want to do this on a event interact. So you have the start, and then you need to a node. We want to do a game object. You know what? Fuck it. I had one I made earlier. So yeah, eventually it just ends up looking like this. So for all this work to get it working on the node graph, this is basically moved player to object B. So you need, what is that? 4, 5, 6, 7, and a variable just to do one action. This is why I don't like the Unity graph.
Yeah.
So for all this, that is the equivalent of this. Which Ezra will be going over in his chapter next.
Right. Let me open up my version of Unity back up here. Make sure all these things are imported and ready to go. So how much actual editing script do you need to know when it comes to using Udon as opposed to just the tools that Udon provides you?
So the Udon Sharp runs on C#, essentially, which is the exact same thing you use for Unity in actual proper games. There's some slight unsupported things here and there that aren't exposed to Udon just yet, and that's on VRChat to expose later. Whether or not they do it is probably a matter of security or want. The things you're going to be using for VRChat is very high-level stuff. You're not going to be, you're not going to be digging down way into the file system or anything like that. So the only thing you're really going to need to know is the basics, which I'm going to be going over.
Right.
So you're going to need to know basic syntax, what data types are, and what the hell a function is. So simple enough. Eventually that should be done. Mine's done. I'm going to import the other shit now.
Got it.
So I'm going to get Udon Sharp. Import all that as well. Doesn't take nearly as long as VRChat itself.
Yeah. Mine's almost done with the SDK.
And while this is working, I will note that there is a reason why it says on the VR chat website to not upgrade from a 2.0 world to a 3.0 world. It is, you can't just drop in 3.0 and have it work. There is a very huge difference between 2.0 and 3.0, and you will corrupt your project if you try.
Yep.
So the best way to do this is to install your stuff on an empty world and just re-import your map. So I am now done with Udon Sharp, so I'm going to drop in Udon Tutorial.
Alrighty. My VR chat is just now finishing up here.
Yeah,
Deciding it wants to compile scripts for like the third time in a row.
Yep. And apparently Euchre has something to show you after stream.
Yeah.
Tarkov.
Alright, there we go. Yeah, speaking of Unity, Tarkov. Yeah, because I know Tarkov runs on Unity.
Does it?
It does, actually, yeah.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, I didn't know that until a while ago. But, yeah, it's a Unity game.
HDRP has quite a lot of power to it, and I'm excited to try using it later. It's called the High Definition Render Pipeline. It's basically what the good Unity games run on.
Now importing Udon Sharp.
I'm really sad that they didn't, that VR chat is still running on 2018 because like the new pipeline and the new particle system have so much more power and efficiency compared to what we currently have. Like I think artists would just go absolutely wild if we were just a few versions ahead. But for long-term support reasons, I understand why they're staying with this, because things can break and change, and you don't want to force all of your users to have to recreate everything they've already made.
And uploading the Udon package, the Udon tutorial package.
The thing is, Lottie, they went from, what was it, 2017 to 2018 in 2020. There was already a 2020 LTS, a long-term support channel that they could have jumped to, and it would have been about the same amount of work. So I don't know why they went to such a very short hop. It would have been, as long as they didn't change their backend, the worlds and avatars should have remained pretty much the same, unless they changed the Unity package system, which is what VR chat uses to deliver worlds and avatars.
They just don't want to break all the worlds and avatars, is what she says. I also think it's because half the team they had at the time didn't know how to do that properly. Huh.
Could be. It would have been a pretty similar path.
Well, maybe they should just hire Waffle then.
I don't know if I want to be hired by them. That seems like a scary prospect.
Yeah.
Yeah, their team is.
I have been looking at.
That's good to hear.
I have been looking at Blackbird Interactive though. They're the guys who made Hard Space Shipbreaker.
Oh.
They have some positions open, but they also live in Canada. And I do not.
Nah.
All right, so everything should be uploaded now. So if you have this VR chat SDK thing here, you can hit Show Control Panel, and
almost there. It's uploading the assets from your package. But if I swap back over to your page in the meantime, or your stream, is after you got everything uploaded.
So yeah, big empty world. You have all of these folders here. I'd also recommend creating a. Where was that? They should have added TextMesh Pro in here somewhere. I can't remember where they put it. Fuck it. We'll do it live. Anyway, so now that you have this...
It's in Window.
I have... a window? Right. TextMesh Pro, import TMP essential resources. That's the one where it was. Thank you, Esarai.
So what is this?
This is just so you can write text in the world. So anytime you see a menu that you can click on, or a button that has a holographic text over the top, that's pretty much TextMesh Pro. Unless they wrote their own texture for it, which is kind of not very good. Anyway, so nothing here yet. Go to Scenes and load up Udon Demo. we have a bunch of stuff that we already have prepped and ready to go. It'll look like this.
Cool. And so the fun thing is when I open that up, it automatically brings up a prompt that says TMP Essentials, import TMP Essentials. So cool, got it.
There is that.
I got the paladin
I was
in
hoping,
here.
yeah, that may or may not be the surprise.
Oh no, the jig is up.
Ooh.
So here's one I created earlier.
It says TMP
I was
examples
hoping-
and extras is the other one.
Nah, just kill that one off.
Oh. Cancel.
Yeah. All right, it's already done. Whatever. So the reason why I had to install TMP first is for some reason this stuff doesn't like to import properly. The buttons I have over here. When I did a dry run, the buttons here generated without their font sizes set, so they just was really huge and vertical for no reason. So if you see that happening, just go into the button real quick, scroll down through the game objects here, and open up the TMP, and make sure font size is set to 2. Otherwise, it might be broken, it might be really huge.
Let me see what I'm looking at the moment. So I'm not seeing whatever that is.
So
It's over on your right.
Yeah, it's behind where the camera starts.
Behind where the camera starts. Over here. Ah, there it is. So that's under...
Yep, so that's what happens when you don't import TMP first.
I see. Got it. So that's under player speed demo. Under default button text TMP. Font size 1.
2. And
Right.
hopefully the other text spawned correctly. If not, oh well. We'll figure that out later.
I'll do the other texts here. Size 2. And there's one other one here.
I don't know why TMP just does not like to import properly when you export to a Unity package, because those even spawned invisible. Great. Whatever. Anyway, moving on. So, now that we have all this stuff done, it is now time to start looking at what code is. So, if you go to the scripts directory, you'll see that there's a bunch of stuff we already have prepped. And if you click on one of the things that say C#, like we'll look at... Actually, I'm just going to use one from the answers queue called Simple Anim Controller. So if you double click that and it pops up Visual Studio correctly, you've done it right.
Scary. So I'm going to there. Udon demo, or no, I have to go to scripts. Scripts. Answers, is that the one we're looking at?
Yeah,
just
for the
double
moment.
click on one of these, it don't matter.
Yeah, so choose Simple Anim Toggle. So S. There you go. Click that, and if it's linked correctly, it should load Video Studio.
Oh no, light version.
Yeah, there is a setting to change that, I believe, in View, not Properties.
Properties window, most likely.
Tools, Customize. There we go.
Tools.
No. All right, you can all look that up online. Whatever.
Fuck it.
Actually, I think it's Tools Options. Yeah, so Tools Options in Environment General, change color theme to dark.
Oh, much better.
Yeah, so that Discord mode, let's go. Anyway, so now you might be thinking, what the hell am I looking at? What is all this text? That's not VR chat normal shit. So to start off with, this is what's called a class. You don't really need to worry about the difference between a class and an object right now. That's actual programming shit. For the sake of this, here's how you break it down. So I have this in Paint. So this right here is the script name. So in this case, this is Simple Anim Toggle. These are your inputs. So in this case, I have a game object called obj and a line of text called anim toggle variable. I'll get to that in a sec. This stuff is also inputs. Wait, over here, but we're not going to go over what that is. Right here is a function. That is basically a block of instructions that Unity will execute in order. So in all that, it's basically, this is basically a big old instruction sheet on how to run your code. We're not going to go into what all this does at the moment. We're going to do that later. But essentially, you have to worry about what a data type is. So you have a bunch of data types you can deal with, and they all do different things. So you have, right here, we have a string. That is basically a line of text. So if I want to say hello world, I would make that a string called hello world. And so we have strings, we have numbers. So you have a float, which is basically any number with a decimal. So a floating point number would be something like 1.01. You also have integers, which are only whole numbers. That is also useful in its own right because they're faster than floats, and they can only be rounded numbers. You can't have half an integer. It's not too important right now what all it is, but you can actually see what all is supported by this if you go to the documentation, which will be, I'll be pointing that out in a sec. I'll come back to that. Yeah. This all looks real scary. Ezra is going to be going over how to actually write your first code in a sec. But essentially, you only have to worry about where you are in the code and how to read it. So in this case, this particular script, you start off with the interact event. So this will run whenever someone clicks on this object. So this will do this stuff, and at some point it will run this function, which just hops the little instruction pointer down here, and it'll run through this, and then, yeah, you just bounce around. I'm getting ahead of myself again. I had this all plotted out in my head, and I think my nerves are getting kind of ahead of me here.
Yeah, you're good.
So, let's see. Arrays are supported.
The base arrays that you declare ahead of time using the brackets, those are supported, but generic typed arrays are not, unfortunately. So like a generic collection such as a list object, like list of whatever object, that is not supported. But if we have, I sound like Shinigami Noel, or do I? Whatever. Anyway, if you declare a base level array of like 4 of whatever object you're using, that is supported as long as the object has been exposed to Udon.
Yep. So I'm going to go with a much simpler thing. I'm going to kind of step on Ezra's toes here, but he'll show you how to write this. I'm just going to show you how to read it. So this is this is the simple teleporter that Ezra is going to run you through in a sec. So it's got the script name simple teleporter. It's got an input called target, and it's got the event interact. So in terms of syntax, all you have to worry about is the difference between a block and a line. And so a block is any statement that is then preceded by a curly bracket. So this whole thing is a block, and this right here is a line. For the sake of this, I'm just going to expand this out real quick. You can take shorthand like that, and we're not going to do that for this. So there are little caveats that you have to worry about. Every block must be closed with a curly bracket. Otherwise, you'll throw errors, and every line must end with a semicolon. So if you don't have a semicolon, and IntelliSense does the thing. You'll see a little squiggly line saying, "Ah, what happened? I have no idea where to stop reading." So just add a semicolon.
Got it.
Let's see.
Blocks and lines.
So 90% of programming is not programming. It is looking at the documentation to figure out how to do what you want to do, or other people's code.
Gotcha.
So in this case, we have 2 links at the ready. We have Udon Sharp's documentation, which is here. And we have Unity itself has its own documentation here. So now we go about how to read this. So say I want to go figure out how to move a player. So in this case, I want to go to documentation, and their little wiki here.
VRChat API.
Click on VRChat API to see what is exposed. So in this case, we have all these objects we can screw with, and enums we'll go over later. That is not too important right now. So in this case, we want to deal with a player. So that is a VRC player API. So we want that. And this is all the things we can do against a player. So it looks kind of oblique or opaque, and you can't really read it right off the bat unless you know what you're looking at. So in this case, we have at the very top, we have a function called isPlayerGrounded. So that returns if the player is on ground or not. That returns something called a Boolean. This is basically just a true or false thing that's saying, is this yes or no?
Yeah, bool is
case,
true, false.
Yeah. So the way we'd write that is if we have our player, just gonna yoink this real quick. So in this case, networking.localPlayer is in their networking tab. You can look that one up. This is basically just how to deal with your local client. So all scripts are run on the client unless specified otherwise. So in this case, networking.localPlayer is you. In this case, it's not the server, it's not another player, it's you. So if I wanted to see if this player is on the ground, I type a dot at the end of local player, and that gives me this big old list of stuff I can do to that player. In this case, I want is player grounded. So every function ends with brackets.
Brackets
is
open.
A variable or
like open close.
Yeah, it's a very. Yeah, this is a function. So this will return true or false if the player is on the ground.
Gotcha.
I thought I could explain this a little better.
True or
Sorry,
false
guys.
if the player's on the ground. I'm tracking.
Talking really fast. Everything's working in my head, but my mouth isn't following along.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Anyway, so in this case, I was saying, how do I want to move this player? So this looks interesting. It's called teleport to. In this case, this one teleports the player to a position with rotation. And that's how we ended up with teleport to on that. I'm going to hold. There we go. So networking.localPlayer.teleport to. This will say, make this player go to this stuff.
Target position, target rotation.
Yeah, these are called arguments. Every function has the capability to have arguments in them, which we will get to in a bit. So in this case, we take the target, which will be input as an input, rather, and then we can grab its position and rotation and send the player to it. And Esarai will be covering what that all means. So basically, if you want to do something in Udon, you basically go to the documentation, figure out what it is you want to affect, and figure out what it is you want to do.
And then you grab the line of script there. That's or not the line.
Yeah.
Is
The
it
function.
the
or
function?
variable.
Got it. Got it.
So these are the VRChat specific stuff in the Udon
Udon Sharp.
Udon Sharp wiki. A lot of the stuff you can do is also the stuff that exists in Unity already, in which case you want the Unity scripting reference. So in that case, you just say, I want to move a donut from point A to point B. So a donut is usually a game object. So we just type game object in the search, grab the page for it, and these are all the things we can do to a game object. And just for shorthand, game object is pretty much anything in the world that can move or exists, actually. So a player is contained within a game object, a light is contained within a game object. A game object is just a thing.
Like if I go here, I can right-click, create empty. That's technically considered a game object. It's just something that's sitting here.
Yes.
I can grab it, move it. It is game object.
Yes. A game object in Unity is essentially a container for your actual functionality. So in this case, a game object doesn't have a teleport to function. That is only for players because players are a little bit more complicated than just a point object.
Yeah.
So in this case, we want to look at, where are they hiding? All right, properties. Properties are non-function little variables that are stuck in the object itself. So in this case, GameObject.transform is how I'd move the object. In this example here, they have on the start event. So basically, when the game starts, this will run once. So GameObject, which is a reference to this thing's self, that's always there.
Yeah.
Dot transform, dot translate. This will move this game object
Those X,
1
Y, Z.
meter left, 1 meter up, and 1 meter forward.
So the XYZ axis.
Yeah. So this is just a raw translate by this much.
So, by the way, in the front where it says things like a public class example, what does that mean?
All right. In this case, you don't have to worry about these. This is more of a programming thing. You will always have this in front of your scripts. We're not going to go over how to deal with those, but at a short bit, a class is basically what an instruction sheet on how to make an object.
Got it.
And an object is what is actually in the world and being played with. So in this case, if this were a Udon Sharp script, a Udon Sharp behavior instead of a mono behavior, this would be your script name.
Got it. Got it. Okay.
Properties can be seen almost like an adjective, but just for me, yeah, kind of. So those data types I was going over earlier. So you got Boolean, integer, float, double, whatever the hell you want. Those can be part of the object itself. And if it is set to public, something else can screw with it. The opposite of public is private. So if I want to give this thing a private Boolean is alive, only this object can see is alive. So if I do if is alive, I can start doing things here. And if I want to make sure, if I want branching logic, so if I want is alive, do thing, it's not an actual thing, it's another line, else, I can do other thing. So this is an if else. This is how you do a branch logic.
Okay.
So if I want to do one thing on this condition, I do if that, else do the other thing.
Got it.
You can also do else if. Game object. I don't know. No, whatever. So I can put in another conditional here. So if true equals true. So that would always go, whatever. That's a very worthless statement because that doesn't actually check anything.
Gotcha.
But essentially, you have you can do a cascading check here. And say I want to make sure that I only run everything below this block if this check is alive. I can exit out of this function called interact by doing a return. Return basically says, I'm done here, go back to where you were.
Okay.
So if this thing is alive, it will say, all right, run this, return. All right, we're done. Just skip everything else.
Got it.
You can also negate stuff with the exclamation point or the not operator. So if not is alive, then return.
Okay.
So yeah, that's very... If I were to equate it, VRC 2.0 is basically like using a hammer. You can do what you want with it. It's pretty simple. It does what it does, and it does what it does well. Udon is more like a CNC router. It's a lot more complicated, and you can make it very quickly go wrong, which we're going to be going over later. But you get a lot more power out of it.
Definitely. Alrighty.
So, I have rambled in random directions for long enough, so I'm going to go pass it over to Esarai and take a drink of water.
Alrighty. So, yeah, Waffle covered pretty much all of the basics of the programming side of this, and just one thing I wanted to point out, or actually two things I wanted to point out as we start. Let me switch my camera real fast. Oop, hold on.
Yeah, we're looking at Unity at the moment.
Yeah, we're looking at Unity. I am having... Here it is. Windows. All right, so it should be showing my Unity. Okay, here. We are in Microsoft Visual Studio now. And one thing that I wanted to point out is this right here. This is called default initialization. So that means on the first time this object is ever created, it will be empty. There will be, like, the computer will know there should be something here, but it doesn't know what it is yet. And you can change this as the program runs, or in the inspector in Unity, you can also set a new default value. So this is going to be important in a bit. I'll show you why. And another just technical thing down here, the original way the conditional statement we have has been set up is doing something, doing an implicit formatting for us. I'm not sure the technical term, but that's always the way I look at it, because you notice we have no brackets around the if target, and then the line below it is indented, but there are no brackets there. That's because it's implicitly adding them for us. And I generally try to avoid writing things this way and always use brackets just to be extremely specific about when the context for a specific condition ends. Because if we were then to take this line here, copy it, paste it, now notice how it's not automatically indented. It is no longer a part of that conditional statement, because it only works on the line directly below it when you do it that way. And that's one of the easy ways you can shoot yourself in the foot. And just now that I'm thinking about it, the other thing we're doing here, this is called sanity checking. So this makes sure that you don't try to do something that is illegal and will force your program to stop. And what that means is we're putting a condition that makes sure we have everything we need required to run this particular function. And what essentially it's just saying the target must exist. There must actually be something in the target, because if we were to try and call target.position, that's what's known as a dereferencing error. So we're trying to access a bit of data that just does not exist, which will throw an error and force the entire script to stop, which then means it will never start again as long as the game session is working. So this is a key point we will keep hammering on a lot, but sanity check everything, because these things showing up can very easily, like, they can easily mess stuff up in ways that you don't notice, especially because it's hard to connect to VR chat in a way that will show you like where exactly the things broke.
Right.
And another syntactical thing I like to point out is when you're writing a conditional statement. So like, let's say if target equals null.
So why do you have two equals there?
That is because this is a Boolean operator. So this is a comparison statement that's telling us, evaluate whether or not these two things are the same and then return a Boolean value based on that. It's a fancy way of doing logic. And there are a bunch of different ones. So let me just go ahead and show those real fast.
Yeah, so you could read it like target is equal to or is equal null. So you just tap it twice.
Gotcha.
And so here's the inverse of that is does not equal is where.
I see.
Yeah.
So basically equals, it does mean it does equal.
Yeah.
And then exclamation mark equals. It's like a shortcut way of saying, is equal to, not equal to.
Exactly.
Got it.
Exactly. Got it. And there are other versions of this, like, hold on. We got, if these were numbers, we could do something like this. So we have a caret equals, and this is if greater than, this one is if less than, and then this one here where you double vertical, this is actually a bad example. Hold on. Very, very bad formatting, and like Microsoft Visual Studio is yelling at me for what I just did. But this thing here is the OR operator. So this is the situation for if either of these two conditions are true. So the target is not the thing you expect, or if the target is null, then we will enter into this block.
Got it.
And now that the Boolean tangent is done, the reason I brought up this equals operator here is this is a silent killer, writing things this way, because what happens if you forget to do the double? That is actually a valid, that's a valid operational statement where now we have just assigned target to, we've assigned null to the target. So even if we put something in there, this is now never going to obtain because target will always be null, and we're doing it right here. You can also do this with 0. So a good way to avoid this is either just do it the way we had it before with just target, or put the constant value. So if you have a 0 or a null, put that first because you can't assign to it. So if you do this and forget the double, it's going to give us an error.
Got it. So just leave as if target.
Yeah, if target, that's all good. And so now we're going to go over to Unity.
Yeah, to put it simply, you can check if something is null just by doing a one-liner like that. So if target is pretty much the same as if target is equal to null.
Got it.
All right,
that's right. You might want to switch over to desktop capture because all you got is the VRC SDK now.
Yeah, I'm seeing that. Whoopsies.
Lottie says, would there be kind of like a cheat sheet for everything somewhere? I would assume where that is those links that they were posting earlier to the VRChat API and the Unity scripting API. Those two links, because as they were explaining before, when you go over here, like say for instance this is for the Udon Sharp off of GitHub, go in that link, and then when you click documentation down over here, VRChat API is what takes you to this, and this shows you basically what kinds of different scripts they have available for you and what you can do. Like say for instance when they were looking for player APIs, so this is stuff affecting the player API, class, VRChat API. It has these scripts down here to start with.
Yeah.
It shows you what
and there is an API for the entire C# language that's published by Microsoft. So if you ever have questions about how to do something syntactically with within C# itself, that is a very good reference, and it works essentially the exact same way as WaffleSlapper has pointed out for Udon and Unity.
Yeah,
Like,
I'll raise
APIs.
the link for that in chat.
Yeah. Thanks, Elray. APIs are like the backbone of most programming. And so now that we have all of this set up and we've gone over the script in its entirety, the next thing we want to do is we're looking at this this ladder setup here. And so we're going to go over the simple teleport demo. And what we want to do here is we want to make a system that can take a player and bring them from the ground up onto this platform and in some worlds, you don't have jumping, or your character may not have a jump power high enough to make that leap, so we need to give them a path upwards. And the script that Waffle was just showing us will let us do exactly that. So what we want to do is inside the simple teleport demo, we go to the trigger. And what the trigger is it's just an empty game object that's been placed on the ladder. And it has over here an Udon behavior.
It also has a box collider, so that it actually, can be accessed.
Exactly. If you don't have a box collider, then the interaction will not work. Like, thank you for pointing that out, because that is a very, very important thing you need to have. If you don't have a collider on an object, you can't interact with it in VR chat. So make sure the collider is there.
Because typically colliders are also what you apply to stuff to prevent you from walking through it, because it collides with certain objects based on if it's on the same layer. Now, technically speaking, aren't you also able to press is trigger? Because if you click that, doesn't that mean you can walk through it?
Yes.
How does that work?
Yeah, if you click is trigger, it means people can walk through it, and it's only used to detect if something has entered into, stayed within, or exited out of a volume, but it does not itself act as a physics object. And yes, you can still do that, but this would mean that anyone who comes through here would be able to phase right through the ladder. So that's why we do not have this set right now.
It also tends to break it as an interactable. So you can't click on it, you have to walk through it.
Oh, that's good to know. All right. So we have this, and what we've done here, we have a Udon behavior. The behavior doesn't actually know what source it's supposed to be using, and what we want to do is going to go and find our simple teleporter. And we have two things down here named simple teleporter. One is the C# script, and the other one is a program asset. And this is what Udon Sharp does for us, is it converts it into a special low-level language that is unique to Udon. That it doesn't matter how you make this language, as long as it is the same asset in the same format as what Udon itself uses, it'll work. So we take the program asset, pick it up, and just drop it directly into the source there, and boom. And now we've noticed that this has changed because it recognized it recognized all the different parts that it has.
So is that a script that came with it, or a script that you guys made?
It is a script that is made. The simple teleporter script is one of our demos. It is in the scripts answers folder, and it's one that we made ourselves. It's not something you will get in the VRC SDK.
Got it.
And over here, I'd like to just go over this. So when we've defined the interact event function, Udon has identified that we did that, and so it's giving us a bunch of options for how to set up the interaction system, and how far away it can be used from, what the text is when you're pointing at it. And it has also identified that we have a public transform variable, and so it's giving us the field to modify that. If we don't mark that field as public, it disappears. So if I were to come over quickly into Microsoft Visual Studio, mark it as private, and we're going to recompile really fast, and you notice that it just disappeared entirely.
Right.
That's why we have public. Public lets the inspector actually use our variables and lets us avoid the default initialization by taking our target object and just dragging and dropping it directly there.
Gotcha.
So now what we've just effected is, whoop, why? I have done something, and what is going on? Okay, there. That's just Udon's logging me back in. So now we've gone and set it so that whenever someone presses the interact on this particular trigger, it'll move them up to the target facing in the direction of these arrows, or oriented to those arrows.
Gotcha. So when it says oriented to those arrows,
yes.
as in,
So
like,
Blue is forward.
yeah, the Z-axis, the blue axis is forward, and so the player will be facing in that direction. The red axis is horizontal, so it points to the right, and Y-axis is vertical, pointing upwards, so the player will be standing facing out on that platform.
Blue is forward. That's good to know.
Yes. And yeah, so that is the base there. Should we just demonstrate it working, or?
Alright, so let me see. Let me go ahead and do that on my side then in that case, because I've got the other thing open. This is what the regular shit looks like. So if I go ahead and I click on the slatter here, it's got the it's got mesh render, got the mesh collider, everything we were talking about before. But that's on the ladder itself. This is the whole prefab here, and then if you click on trigger, which is the separate game object and collider that's set on the ladder, then, well, actually, technically speaking, if the ladder itself has the box or the mesh collider, you don't actually even need the collider to be, you know, something that they can't walk through on trigger. But that's just it's not the point.
Yeah.
So it's got the Udon behavior script in it. So
and
then
you could use the ladder as the collider as the collider itself.
Yes.
Using a mesh collider is a little bit less performant than using a primitive collider like a box collider. So that's the whole reason that we've split it up that way, is simply to make sure it goes fast.
Got it.
I will say, if I can interject real quick here, there's some VRC setup that I forgot to go over, which is why the trigger is now on a blank layer. The layer is blanked out on that. If you go to the VRC SDK and control panel.
Oh, right.
Go control panel.
Go to the builder tab and just fix all the issues.
Oh, let me log in first.
All right, that too.
Sign in. Gotcha.
So there'd be
Set up layers of VR chat. That's right. That's right. Do it. Set collision matrix.
Just do it.
Do it. We did it.
Yeah, just fix all the problems here. It's so easy.
If bug fix return.
Gotcha. So what did that do for us here? I'm not seeing what changed.
So that has put the trigger into the pickup layer.
Yeah. And so that's something that I forgot about that is also very important. In the inspector, underneath the object name and the static marker, that you want things to be on the pickup layer so that they don't interfere with the player and they don't interact with other things that you may not want to see in the scene. So, like, you may have a larger trigger that doesn't conform exactly to the geometry, and in order to prevent people from getting stuck on it or to prevent it from blocking people in an unreasonable way, you want to put it on the pickup layer so that it'll still interact with it. It's still like the VR chat system is still able to mess with it, but it doesn't mess with the player. And like, if you were to shoot a gun past the ladder, it would respect the ladder's collider, but not the trigger collider, and so the ladder would not be a box and therefore provide hard cover, something like that.
Gotcha. I see. That makes sense. Okay, so now we have the Udon behavior script that's been put in here, and this simple teleport script that you guys have made, oh so conveniently, drop into program source, and there's currently bug, spam, use your own list, whatever. And then target is going to be the target you guys made up here, which it looks like forward is the other way around on this one.
Oh. Well, that's
real quick. We could just
Yeah.
Ooh, wait, no.
I'm
still-
actually
Hold on.
really curious what
you're
happened.
on global.
Ah!
Switch to global.
Oh, yeah, I'm on the local.
That's why.
I'm using a local frame of reference. Okay.
Globals for versus local. Wait, that's why. Okay, never mind. That's why I said chat gets to watch me represent them going, "Hey, Dad, go ahead." So there we go.
Yep, that's a really easy mistake to make, so I don't fault you for
Oops.
it.
It's easy and
Target
also
is
one of the
target.
most annoying mistakes. 'cause
The usually the biggest mistakes are like the smallest ones. I've spent hours going through stuff and I was like, why isn't it working? Why isn't the armature being detected? When I fixed it, I checked on Blender, everything is in port.
the worst
The
bug
armature
I
is
ever
named
had-
armature 0.001.
Ow.
That's all it is.
The worst.
I spent 3 hours trying to troubleshoot a model for someone before their RP was ready, and then I was like, 0.001. Got it. Just rename it. Just rename it and all works. Got it.
The worst bug I ever had to deal with at work took me an entire day to figure out where it was coming from, and it boiled down to a difference of one symbol.
Yep.
Like a single symbol hidden like way in a function several layers away from what I was actively working on. And it's the difference between the ampersand and the star. Like an asterisk versus an ampersand in C++ is a massive world of difference in a loop. Like it I don't want to get into the technical details of all the shit it was causing, but it broke so much stuff.
Oh my god. Finishes the code, tries running the code. Error in line 32. There's only 20 lines of code.
I program for a living, and I know exactly that kind of bullshit. I don't
Yeah.
like C at all. I prefer C++ or C#. Just
Yeah.
feel lucky that you don't have to deal with things called pointers.
I feel lucky.
I have to deal with pointers all the time, and I use C++. It's and I agree with that statement 100%. Pointers are a nightmare.
Anyway.
But
So-
shitty.
So we got that set up. So now this is, you got the script
Ready to
set
roll.
up, and this is a script. So real quick question, because one thing that is definitely very handy is once you understand how some of these, scripts work. I suppose the biggest difficulty when it comes to this is creating the scripts itself. There is C#, but then there's also this tool here that you said Udon does, which is
The good news is that that's actually not very hard to do because Udon will automatically recompile itself anytime it detects that the source files have changed. So like if you were to go into Visual Studio right now and change anything about the simple teleporter source, so the C# file,
yeah.
and save it, when you come back to Unity, Unity will detect that change and recompile for you.
Gotcha.
So this is all automatic, and you can also click on the source or on the compiled program as well. And there should be a button for it that just asks you, "Hey, do you want to compile this program or all of the programs?" And then you can just press that, and it does it.
I see. That's neat.
Yeah.
Is there
You're at that real
a?
quick.
Yeah, you got it. Is there a place? Is there like a library somewhere, or is there a place to access a lot of already of these, like, say, pre-made scripts? Because, say, for instance, someone's sitting here, they're not so sure how to work with C#, they're not so sure how to, do with the inputting lines of command. They're just confused by it all. Is there a place to get, say, for instance, a lot of these? Because it's so much easier to understand, okay, this is a simple teleport command, or this is a, set player speed command, trigger, whatever it is, and we just drop that into the Udon script here. Is there a place for people to access those?
Yes, vrcprefabs.com. This is a community-run, just small website that I'm going to drop a link in chat and in Discord. It is a small website that just collates a bunch of different publicly available assets that can make your life a ton easier. And if I didn't just
That's handy.
Whoop. All right. It's a it makes life so much better because there's a ton of stuff people have already set up that you can just pretty much drag and drop and put into your world, and also use as examples for if you have something slightly more custom that isn't quite what they've got there, but is still perfectly valid. Like, it gives you a good base to start on and modify from. And frankly, like Killer Rain here said that most of programming is copy pasting. That's I don't want to denigrate everyone who works in the job, and I don't want to denigrate myself, but it's very true. Like having an example of how it happens and how it's done properly first is incredibly useful, because otherwise
Oh yeah.
you then have to like stumble your way through it blindly and hit a bunch of mistakes that aren't really apparent. But if you're also like trying to learn stuff, doing it the hard way can give you a better understanding. It just it goes much, much slower.
Yeah.
Don't feel bad about denigrating the profession. Every programmer pretty much knows that 75% of programming is very thinly veiled plagiarism.
Yeah, that's true.
Just go to Stack Overflow. Forehead.
Yeah, and so there's that. And now that we have our teleporter set up, are there any questions I've missed or anything? Let's see if we're gonna try to catch up with the chat.
This much, at least from where I'm standing, this seems simple enough. Once I load the thing, walk up here, and with this trigger, I click on it, and based off of the script that we put inside the Udon behavior, that will go put us right up here.
Yep, exactly.
So if you go to your VRC control panel, you can hit build and test, and you can test this for yourself.
Building. And Force Non-VR is already enabled.
Yes.
I hit the build and test, and I didn't double check to see if that was there first. I was like, for a moment.
Why can't I move?
We're good. We're good. Jazz snaps. Ah, boy. I can program is basically I'm a professional Googler. Well, I've noticed, like, it's true in a lot of different, it's very true in a lot of different, careers as well. Like, even for the sound design stuff. Like, I know, like, Lottie and some other people here can confirm this already. Like, half the time we're watching something off of Netflix, I'll pause and be like, wait a minute! I have that sound. They didn't even edit it. They just threw it right in. What the fuck? Like, I'm watching, like, some of that really good, like, what was that, friggin' Shadow and Bone and Shadow, whatever it was? That, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I saw ads for it. I haven't watched it.
It was a good one, yeah. We were watching, I paused, I was like, wait a second! Hold up! Like, because they had those like, dark creatures that were flying around. I paused, and I brought up a sound effect that I had from, fuck it, I'll do it right now. I'll do it right friggin' now. So how many of you guys have watched that? And if you've seen that, then, here, let me go to Passport D, SFX library, creatures, big creature pack, creature constructed. Which one was it? Hopefully it's not too loud right at the beginning. Okay, how familiar does this sound, guys? For those of you who have watched that, how familiar? They just threw it right in.
I had something similar happen. I forget what I was watching, but I heard it and I just went, wait, was that an AC-20 from the BE pack?
Yep. That happens. Happens all the damn time to me.
And every time I played a lot of Doom as a kid, and every time I hear that door opening sound in something else, like that one scene when Doctor Who's flying away from the black hole, you just hear it constantly. I'm like, that's just the door.
Yeah, I have something similar with Free Space. Like, Free Space was my jam as a kid, and I can recognize those sound effects anywhere, and they show up in a surprisingly large amount of stuff nowadays.
Oh yeah. I find it all over the place, but being the sound designer stuff is a matter of it can be everything from as simple as simply mixing it down, layering. It doesn't always have to be actually recording and creating the stuff yourself. That's just like another side of it. But a lot of times people for, games, studios, whatever, they just have a list of libraries, a whole list of sound effects, and they just slap them on in, affect them, time them up, and line them up correctly. But anyways, here we go. Magic.
Ta-da!
Magic. All right. So there's that. Walk up, click. Wow, I'm here. Got it.
Congratulations, you have your first working script.
Woo! Alrighty.
All right. And then the next thing we can do is we can take this one step further, which is we can choose a different event to work off of. So on my screen right now, I've opened up a different script. This is the collidable teleporter in the answers folder.
Collidable teleporter. What does that mean?
Yep. And essentially, what I mean here when I name it this way is that this is a teleporter that you can collide with to trigger it. The name is entirely arbitrary. Like I could literally name this thing Ooga Booga, but you do not want to do that, and you don't want to put abbreviations in your code name, in my experience, because it quickly turns into lost tech where you look at something and go, what the fuck? And so
saying lost tech brings me to
yeah. Like there's some code in my company from like 15 years ago still, and it was an entirely different paradigm because all of the variable names are just like A and B.
Got it.
Or some weird variation like that, and so it is incredibly obtuse what's going on. Anyway, so the name is arbitrary, but in this case, I have a reason for calling it this, and that's because we are going to use a different function. You'll notice here that interact has disappeared. We don't want to use interact. Instead, what we want to do is we want to piggyback off of on player collision enter. And what this means is that this gets called whenever a player object, like the game detects a player object entering a collision with a collider. Could be anything. And especially it's this collider. So the one that's on this game object. And we have a slightly more complicated conditional sanity check here, which means it starts with, we have to have defined a target. The player has to exist. And that's mostly paranoia, because in usual cases, the player will exist. The player is the local player, but sometimes weird stuff can happen. We can't be fully certain that the player will always exist. At least this is just how I operate, and we want to make sure that there is a player. And then we also want to make sure that the player that did hit this thing is the local player. We don't want to start accidentally teleporting other players, like just out of the blue saying, hey, that player over there, yeet. Or if another player hits that collider, it teleports every player in the game, because that's something you could potentially do with this.
Yeah, local player being you and only you.
Yep. So like that's all of what's going on there. We have our does not equal signs equal and the and operators. You've also noticed that I've gone ahead and there are more parentheses in this conditional statement.
Yeah, no.
This is
that's because you've got conditionals within conditionals.
Yeah, it's an order of operations thing in order to make sure that this statement here evaluates before the and statement, because one of the worst things that can happen is if it misparses what you were writing and then tries to perform some logic that is not what you intended. So using extra parentheses here is a bit like using parentheses in mathematics, in that thing must happen first.
Gotcha. So doing those two symbols is and. Is there any difference between, like, say, for instance, typing that and just and?
And isn't.
And is not a keyword, unfortunately.
Got it.
So it does not work that way. There is, however, a difference between two ampersands and one ampersand. The 2 ampersand version is the Boolean operator. The 1 ampersand is a bitwise and that's a little bit more technical than we want to get into today.
Gotcha.
But
Boolean meaning just true false. So that's what you use for true false stuff.
Yeah, Boolean is true false, and ampersand is like, here, evaluate all of the bits of this object, and if they are all the same, return true. And
gotcha.
Yeah, it's used for some weird like voodoo hyper-optimization fuckery, but that's a little bit beyond what we're doing here today. So this is we have this script. We've gone over all of the changes we've made to it. I'm going to swap back to Unity real fast. Okay. And this time what we're going to do is we're going to take our simple teleport demo, go to the trigger, and we are going to remove the Udon behavior we put there and add a new one. And so to add a new one, we just add an Udon behavior. Then we go grab the collidable teleporter compiled code, apply it, grab the target, drop it in like normal. And now what'll happen is anytime the player runs into the collider box, it'll instantly teleport them up top. There will be no clicking required. Just you hit the ladder, you go.
That's handy.
All right. Yeah, Killer Rain, I use bit shifting a lot for optimization in my particular section of our code base. Like it, at first it's a little bit terrifying, but once you get used to what it's actually doing, it is so handy. Anyway, that is the collidable version. If we want to give that a test, we can just go ahead and build and test real fast.
That works. So, earlier on, we were looking at the was it that graph thing? Not graph. What's the word I'm looking for here?
The Udon graph?
Yeah. We were looking at that earlier. Is that basically a tool used to create these create scripts by more visual means as opposed to a text means, or how exactly does that thing work?
Exactly.
Pretty much.
Gotcha. Okay. So that is okay.
But you don't get IntelliSense, you don't get sanity checking, and you don't get error highlighting.
So it's more optimal to learn how to use,
Yes.
and you'll learn like the coding itself. However, if you know little to nothing about coding, it's probably easier to start with that, I would assume. The graph.
I actually
think so,
would not. I
but
would not say.
Mom, Dad.
Well, it's easier if you can't. Sorry. It's easier if you can't wrap your head around programming, but it becomes much, much harder to manage when you get into more complicated scripts.
And it also goes slower because I started out with like the Paladin pistol, the pistol I made a long time ago. I started out trying to do that in Udon, and it took me so long to set up really basic logic with it that I just abandoned it and entirely went to U#. And this is the thing that's about U# is it lets you iterate and make changes much more quickly. And over the course of a project, the amount of time it saves you is well worth the investment.
Gotcha. But it does also sound like, in order to utilize Udon Sharp, you definitely need to know coding better, which to me personally feels like that's going to be the thing that takes a long time to get used to, is understanding the language. And, constantly rechecking, constantly looking at examples, constantly asking questions, as opposed to, because, for me, someone who's, visual, like, I've gotten used to using the charts that they have within Unity, like, especially with Avatars 3.0 and etc. So it's a lot easier for my brain to track that. But then learning how to use code, I've got to learn the language. So that will be the difficult part for me, remembering shit and understanding it.
Yeah, that is a fair way to judge that startup cost. But the good news is there are a lot of guides, and every piece of C# is documented. Like there is an explanation for it from Microsoft themselves, and then like so many other people out there write their own tutorials for it that like you can get a lot of support really quickly.
Gotcha. Would it perhaps be easier as opposed to writing it from scratch? Would it be easier to try to like make it first and then edit it afterwards in the graph?
You can't actually port them between Udon Sharp and Udon, because what's going on is Udon Graph and Udon Sharp are two different methods for compiling the same assembly language. So you're essentially writing a very customized form of machine code whenever you're doing this. Like that special asset that we're dragging into the Udon Sharp behavior, or the Udon behavior component, that is essentially a very specialized machine code for VRChat itself. And the Graph and the Udon Sharp compiler they don't talk to each other at all. They just both create that same thing.
Got it.
And you can see this, by the way, if you click on the U# object and drop down the compiled C# Udon assembly.
Compiled C# Udon.
The drop down, not the buttons. Yeah, so that's what all this is compiling down into. And that is why we're not writing in that, we're writing in C#.
Ah. Right. Got it.
High-level languages, go. And also, something was just brought up in chat that I should probably bring up on the VOD. Another way to do this collision-based teleporter is to make the trigger into a trigger. Like the collider into a trigger volume is trigger. And then instead of using on collision enter, you can just do on trigger enter.
Yeah. Oh, and actually, now that we're talking about the difference between trigger and collider, there's one piece we forgot, or I forgot to do. The trigger can now no longer be on the pickup layer, because if we're trying to make this collidable, we need it to then it can't be on the pickup layer anymore because it will not physically interact with the player at all.
So it can't be on the pickup layer.
Yep.
Trigger. So what would we put it on instead? Default?
Yeah, we can just put it on default for now. I'm sure there's
or would you
probably
put it on player?
Waffle, do you know
Player
which one's
local?
preferred? Like
Default.
Default.
Interacts with everything.
Got it.
Yep. All right.
No, this was me opening up that collidable teleporter thing here. All right. After the explaining, especially what some of this stuff means, it's a little bit easier to read it. But, there's still a lot they're looking at going like, okay, let's say if I'm making this from scratch, how do I know what to use, what to put in there? But I guess that also has to do with just moving on with the tutorial as well. So,
yep.
Alrighty.
All right, and yes, the colliding teleporter should be ready to go, but I'm not sure we need to demo that. So
Not
I think
necessarily. People get the idea. Instead of clicky, you walkie into it, bonk your head on it, and it throws you up there, just like Lottie said.
Yep.
Okay. Does that mean it's my turn?
Yeah, back over to you, Waffle.
All right.
I'm gonna go grab a coffee.
Okay.
Oh, bring me one, please.
Engine was also saying that I might be a bit quiet.
Are you? Let me try turning you up on my end. I don't know about quiet, but maybe just a bit quieter than Esarai. Got talking now?
Testing. 1, 2, 3. Udon.
Yeah, that works. You're just quieter than him, but I can hear you just fine.
All right. Well, if it works. All right. Engine says perfect, so we'll go with that. So,
got it.
Now, if we pop back over to my screen, we're going to go over how to very quickly make Udon go wrong.
All right.
So, over here, we have this button and a pile of particle systems in the corner. So this, essentially, is going to be a little fireworks display. Very simple, just a little spurt of fountain. And we want this button to trigger all of these. So in this case, we're going to start off with the asset firework button. And that should already be attached to the button itself. So we just need to open it up.
Gotcha.
So this is where we actually start having you guys follow along, because this is an empty script.
So let me go ahead and open that up then. I'm looking at the over here, and just let me go ahead and turn this on for the sake of matching. So if I go to, actually no, if I have this on, this is a bit easier for me to tell which is mine. Under scripts, firework button. Using Udon Ship. Cool. Public class firework button. There's space there. There's a space there. Okay. Udon Ship behavior.
Yeah, so this is our firework button. You can see that it has no functionality, no inputs, no nothing. So, before you noticed that we had a public, call it a game object.
Let me switch back over to your window.
Firework. Yep.
Yeah. Pull a game object.
So, as you can see, we have one input. This likely will not work for our 10.
Are you able to zoom in a little bit on your C? Just so. There we go. That helps.
All right, so we're up to 182%. Nice. Anyway, so we have these 10 firework things and one input. So one object or one possibility is that we can just duplicate all these lines. Just go like 1, 2, 3. That's really shit. So what we're gonna do is do an array.
Array. What is an array?
So an array is a pile of something. Basically, in this instance, we are actually going to want to deal with the particle systems in the fireworks. So do particle system, and we're going to use the array operator. So just 2 square brackets. That is now a particle system array. And we'll give a name, call it particle systems. And
so one thing I will say, sorry, real quick, I did notice when you go to the next line after you open up the block with the squiggly thing, you do you tab in. Is there any purpose for that?
Indentation is a very good way to organize your code. So if I go over to something with some bulk and I remove the indentation, holy shit, you can't even tell where everything is now.
Got it.
So with the indentation, I can see from.
So that's what that is. Gotcha. So that isn't code relevant. It's just for organization purposes.
Yeah, technically you can have your entire script on a single line as long as every single block end and semicolon is in the right spot.
Got it. Okay.
So yeah, with indentation, I can see at a glance that this is all part of the same thing. This is all part of the same thing. This is, and so on and so forth.
That makes sense. Got it.
I want to.
So I don't know if having that there or not made a difference.
Yeah. So we now have our array input, and since we saved and went back over here,
zoom. It unzoomed.
It did what? It did. Yeah. What the? Get over here.
Got it. So you have an array set.
Yeah. This has now changed to a dropdown. In this case, we want to have 10 items. So from there, we can now start dragging them one by one into here, and you can very quickly see that this is still a very tedious process. We don't want to do that 10 times or an arbitrary number of times. What we want to do is...
I mean, you can do it if you want to be careful, but...
yeah, you can be careful, or you can be slow. They're both pretty much the same thing. What we can do here is change up how we're going to...
Sorry. Forgot the fucking alerts.
Hold on!
Yeah.
So,
thank you.
In this case, we don't want this visualized in the inspector anymore, because we're going to do this ourselves. Or we're going to make the code do it, rather. Which will save us a lot of heartache and accidentally putting the same thing in twice. So we're going to change that to private. And we're going to make a new input called public game object base parent.
Base parent.
And the reason we're doing this is that we have all 10 of these fireworks under the same game object. It's an empty called bases. And they're all formatted the exact same way. And because of this, we can just do a quick little thing when we start the thing. So we're going to do a public void start. So we now have an event that'll run when the game starts.
Okay. Public void start. Void. What does void mean?
Void means this function is going to return nothing.
Return nothing.
Yeah, so at the end of every function, it is expecting a return value. So in programming terms, if this were a function I wanted to do like a status check, I'll do public bool is alive. You can see now I have a red squiggle there. Not all words, please. Not all code paths return a value.
Right.
And that's because we're not returning it right. So we return true.
Okay.
It'll always be alive. In this case, void means nothing. We return nothing.
Okay. Makes sense.
So we want to write a quick little thing to make sure that the script does all of our dirty work for us. And in that case, we do a quick little sanity check, just in case. So if base parent is not null, or as a shorthand, just base parent, we want to make our array particle systems equal to base parent. So we're going to do a function on base parent called get components, spell it right, in children. And this is basically a typed return. There's a whole name for it and the reason behind it, but basically we want to get all the types of particle system.
Okay.
Why is that still?
If base parent particle system equals base parent, get component in children.
Why are you still yelling at me? I already did the thing. Oh, components.
Yeah.
So yeah, the difference between get component in children is it's going to find the first one. Get components is going to find all of them as an array. So
Okay.
if we save that, now all we need to do is go back to Unity and click on our button. As soon as the script recompiles. Come on. Please.
Unity.
There
There it is.
All right, so now we have a base parent, which is none. We drop our base into there. And if we go ahead and we can do a little thing here for debug purposes and just make that public. So now we can see this again. And it's still recompiling again. Damn it.
So, what would happen if, say, for instance, you were to try to use loop demo as the base instead of bases? Oh, wait, never mind. Because that's what immediately, because it has like button, pull, and everything like that. But bases, the next immediate thing is firework, but it's all formatted the same afterwards, same stuff.
Yeah. So the reason why we're doing that is if we wanted to run it on loop demo, we could. In this case, it's fine because our only particle systems are in this. But for the sake of clarity, we're just going to keep it under the same place as button.
Roger.
There's also a reason why we're doing this in start and not at any time during runtime. That is because this is very slow. We don't want to do this on a timer. We don't want to do this on frame, of course, because this has to go. All right, we start here. All right, is there any component here that matches us? No. All right, let's go to the next one down. Is there anything that matches our component here? No. All right, let's go to the next one down. And then we find a particle system. We add that to the array. And it just iterates down this entire thing, which means that it has to do a lot of checking and looping to figure out where everything is. So we want to do it once. We don't want to do it any more than once. So we have this, and if we hit our play button here, as soon as it compiles itself.
Yeah. Just bottom right is a swirly symbol. Equals compiling. Bottom right.
Anyway, so now we're in play mode, and we can see that particle systems has been already filled out for us. It's given it a size, and it's given it a solid thing. In programming terms, the reason why you have to give it a size is because in memory, they're all lined up next to each other. So if it doesn't know where to stop reading, you start reading garbage.
Basically.
Just random shit from your memory.
So after the size is done, so to speak, it stops reading.
Yes. Luckily in C#, all that's handled for you. You don't really have to worry about reading out of bounds because it'll throw an exception instead of reading garbage. So now we want this thing to actually do something. So let me grab the correct window. There we go.
Okay, so if I were to try to make this myself from the start, if I'm following along here.
Yeah, go ahead and get to where we are.
Gotcha. We click on this. It's got the Udon behavior script, utilities. Wait, oh yeah, I have to find the. Where is it?
It's in your asset scripts called firework button.
Asset scripts. Firework button. Here we go. This needs to be dragged onto.
It's already there.
It is already there, isn't it? Okay, so why is it? Why is this grayed out at the moment? As in, I can't.
Because it's locked in.
Gotcha.
Udon doesn't support swapping out the behaviors.
Okay, got it. But if I wanted to say, if I was doing this from scratch, the thing is, it's already there, but I want to put it in, so I'd remove that.
In this case, if you wanted to do it from scratch, you'd remove that component, add a new Udon behavior.
Udon behavior.
Drag the firework button asset onto that none there, the program source.
The none right here. Here we go. Gotcha. That's what it is.
And uncheck the allow transfer on collision. That's another thing, by the way. Always uncheck that.
Because allow ownership transfer.
That bug has been there forever.
I see.
And it is really bad when it happens.
Gotcha. That would be ownership, meaning you're the only one who can activate it, right?
Yep. So we'll get to this later, but ownership refers to networking stuff. The way that VRChat does this networking is something called peer-to-peer, or P2P.
Yeah.
So everyone has their own charge of their game state and listens to whoever owns whatever object.
Gotcha. So,
technically, by default, the owner of the instance owns all objects to start off with, until such time things change, which we'll get to later.
So we've got that, and now we are stuck with public override interact.
Yep.
Pulling this up, and it's the part where you say you compare it with what other people got here as well. So, public override void. So we would we'd get rid of these.
No, you want to keep the interact. You just want to add a new function.
Interact. Add a new function. So, this is where the fun part comes in with me trying to remember and retain any of this, which is not easy to do. So you start asking questions like, what do I do next here? So wait, so if I hit enter,
yep, that's all fair.
If I hit enter, it tabs it in. But if I hit
because you're adding something to the block.
But if I hit but just one.
So if you start on the open bracket on the class.
On the class.
So the one under public class.
Gotcha.
And hit enter, you'll get into that indent.
I see. Gotcha. So where do I want to add this? It's going to be public. Oops. Public. Game object. Oh wait, I want to do the thing where it's showing the spaces like it is on yours. Or just got that.
That is under tools, options. Let's see if I can remember where this is. Text editor. Where the hell? View white space under display.
Under display.
So text editor, general, display, view white space.
Display, view white space.
You don't have that there. What the?
That's weird.
Hell's the difference? Let's see her. Well, I don't know where that is.
That is interesting.
And we'll look that up later. Basically, the only thing different is that I can see the difference between tabs and spaces.
Yeah, which is handy. But
It's a by default, when you create a new script in Udon Sharp, it'll use space indentation rather than tabs, and I hate it. But there's no setting yet to swap between them.
And it was game object. Fortunately, it already identifies that.
Yep.
When I type it in, and it was base.
Just give it a name.
Parent. Base parent. So after
And
that,
just
I
for,
needed to
Semicolon.
semicolon, and the semicolon again tells it to stop a line.
Yep.
Yeah. So excellent. Then we go to the next line.
Yep. And just a note on how I have my letters capitalized. This is called camel case. It's a very useful way to spread out words in your non-space allowed thing. So instead of particle systems, it is particle systems.
So do it one more time. I brought the screen on.
So the way I have it here is the base way you format things by the spec, at least. You can break the spec and it won't really yell at you, but it looks ugly. And yeah, so it is a base parent. So it's two words smashed together, put a capital there. And because of that, Udon, or Unity rather, will make that into two words in the inspector.
Got it.
Just a note on organization.
And another thing that can be useful for reading someone else's code is that in C#, at least in C# with respect to Unity, there is a general convention that you use camel case on member variables or properties, but you use full-blown all caps, like every word is capitalized for methods and functions. So like if you look at how in teleport to or the on player enter collision, all of those things all have their words fully capitalized, but then none of the variables do. That's because that's what's going on there. So you can use that as a hint to like see, okay, am I looking at a function or am I looking at a member variable? If you ever have to figure out which one is which.
I see. Okay. So
An instruction versus a data point.
Public game object base parent. Then after that, over here you had private particle system. Private meaning that we're the ones.
Not visible to anything else.
Gotcha. What if I want it to be visible to everything? Like, does that mean that when I activate it, then only I will see it?
So this is in the scope of the script itself. So private means that no other script can look at this script and mess with its particle systems array.
Got it. Okay, so it's location. Private. What do I want to do here? So I've got public game object base parent.
Yep. So you want to make a particle system array.
Should I tab this? Does that make it easier to read? Does not matter at this
can,
point.
But that
I'm trying to remember the order of which things occur here and when is appropriate to tab in, not tab in, etc. Because we're still telling it to.
The only time you want to tab in is when you start a new block. So you see these open braces, and the next line down is tabbed in.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, like it's useful to use enter, like to just enter a blank line between different sections on the same level. But the tabs are, as Waffle said, for like when something exists inside of another thing. So you have a block within a function. As a way to look at it, it's kind of like a Matryoshka doll.
Okay. So at this point, I'm still. So when I'm writing my script, figure out at this stage what am I telling it to do. So by saying public game object base parent, I've told it.
Creating a variable called base parent.
Creating a variable called base parent.
Yep.
And then private particle system.
So it's basically scope type name.
Scope type is particle system. And then name, in this case, is firework.
Uh,
Or no, it's not
First,
called
make that a
firework.
particle system array.
Particle system array. I think actually right. An array is to open
2 square brackets.
2 square brackets. Got it. And firework. Is it work or works? It's
You can actually see that it's given you a suggested name that you can just tab down into.
Oh.
So if I do particle systems, I just hit the down arrow and it can fill it in for me. So if you start typing, like if you start from the particle system array and then hit space, it'll pop up an autocomplete dialog.
Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Give me 1 minute.
Alrighty.
Should we take a water break then?
Possibly a water break. If anyone has any questions in the chat, go ahead and post them there. I think this would be probably a good time to field those.
Yeah. And I know I have to hit the restroom, so I'm going to be right back
Alrighty.
in a minute and a half.
Sounds good. Ah, darn. Have a good one, Persona Freak.
Sorry about that. Someone poked their head in. Father's Day stuff. So.
Ah, right on.
Yeah.
So Waffle just ran off to the bathroom. Yeah, he should be back shortly, but where were we? Oh yeah, he was mentioning that it's see those 3 dashes there at the beginning?
Firework. So it's recommending particle systems here.
Yeah, it's recommending particle systems as the name. Like that's just how IntelliSense would like to format this. But in this case, I think, just calling it lowercase firework particle systems would also work. It's like IntelliSense tries to give you suggestions that are relatively accurate but can speed stuff up. But there are certain cases where you may want to be more specific about what something is that IntelliSense isn't a lot of fun,
Right.
isn't a lot of assistance with.
All right, I'm back.
Welcome back. So it's firework, and the reason we do lowercase instead of uppercase is because, hit me with that once again.
It denotes the difference between a variable and a function.
Gotcha. Variable
to the person writing the code. Variable is basically this thing right here is a thing. It's not a list of instructions. It's not a script in its own right. It's just
it establishes that something exists.
Yeah, it's a Boolean. It's a particle system. It's a game object. It's a single unit of item.
Oh yeah, and as Killerain is mentioning, yes, the name of the variable can be anything so long as there's one contiguous block of non-white space characters. And white space is anything that just doesn't have a character, so a tab, a return, or a tab, return, and space characters themselves.
Got it.
And it can't start with a number.
True. Good pointing.
Okay. So we've established this variable, and we've established this variable here. Fireworks. Yeah, is that what it's called?
Fireworks.
Fireworks. Does it matter if it matches up with what we got in Unity yet?
Nope.
I don't think so.
Completely arbitrary name for variables.
Because Unity will rename itself based on what you do here.
Got it. Okay.
So. I would also recommend removing the extra new line at line 13 because you split the function there a little bit ago.
Yeah. I don't know what that did. I just pressed delete.
It didn't do anything functionally. It's just harder to read.
Whatever.
Yeah, a lot of coding is also making sure that what you're writing is as clear and readable as possible, so that if someone else has to come in when you're not available, they'll understand what's going on.
I see.
Because one of the worst things that can happen is if you don't have comments in code, or you inherit code from someone who never commented what they did, and they have like very messy and like they don't have good variable names, everything is messy, then it takes much longer to actually read through it and figure out what's going on versus, if there are comments and everything is properly formatted and spaced out, it goes much faster.
Got it.
And not only someone else's code, but your own. If you come back to a project to try to fix a bug in like a VRC update or whatever, then you have to go dig through whatever broke and figure out where you were and what you did. Also, one thing we didn't go over in all that is a comment. So a comment can either start with 2
Yeah, I noticed
backslashes,
that. And then
or
you just...
you can do a /* and then end with a slash, and then you have a multi-line comment.
Interesting. Okay. So we got particle system fireworks. We're naming it there. So then after that, that's just us establishing variables, right?
Yep. And for my sanity, please fix the indentation on that bracket.
This one here. Which bracket?
Yeah, line 13.
So
It's
just get rid of
fallen slightly. Just tab it in rather than spacing it once.
Oh. There we go. Bracket open.
Yep.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
This is all
Next thing
still
you
the
wanna
same
do-
block at the moment, right? Yes, it is.
Yep. Next thing, you want to start a new function called start. We're going to interact with the start event.
Gotcha. So
And
we've established the variables.
yes.
Private particle system. I'm running this through in my head to just relay out loud what it means. We've established that there's a public game object, so that everyone can see it, whatever it is, called base parent. And we've ended that line. And then private, meaning that nothing else will affect this. Particle system, when we've made it an array with the 2 brackets here. Array meaning there's a series of variables there. Yeah, a pile of them. There's a series of pile of them that are all the same and formatted the same. And fireworks is what we're naming it. And capital R or lowercase in the beginning for this because it's, one word. But this is 2 words, so capitalize the P so that it identifies it as 2 words and relates it as such. So we've ended that. Now that we've got those 2 variables here,
Yeah, we want to fill up fireworks with something. So
Gotcha.
Go ahead and create your start function.
Okay. So that's going to be... What am I going to add here to start it? Will it be like actual start?
Public void start.
Right. So establish... Doing enter twice won't really do anything. I just do that, right?
Yep.
Public
It's called white spacing.
void.
Puzzblick.
Public void start. Void meaning it'll do it once
That it has no return value.
Return value. Gotcha. And return value meaning this is just relaying and relapsing over stuff.
Yeah, the return value is what that function shits out when it's done.
Got it. So it just does
So in this
something,
case,
and nothing it results in the end of it. It just does something.
Yeah.
Got it. So it's like if we were spawning something or changing something, then but we're not. Cool. Public void start, and then it did the open and close parentheses. What does that mean again?
That denotes a function. So this is a thing that does something. It's a pile of instructions.
Gotcha.
List of instructions, rather.
Gotcha.
Do not stop on other terminology.
So these over here, we're just establishing that this shit exists, and now that that shit exists, open and close brackets mean we're gonna do we're gonna do this with said shit.
Yep. Technically, the stuff can actually go in the open and close brackets, but start has no arguments, as they're called, which are basically inputs for that function. Start has no inputs, so it has nothing in there.
My English is showing. What do you mean, Ball? Let's put it this way. I am using the I don't understand any of this terms. I am the newbie who doesn't know a damn thing about scripting, who doesn't know the big fancy words.
I think he was referring to Puzzblick.
Oh yeah, that too. But yeah, I am using simple plebeian terms here.
Yes.
So after
go
that,
ahead and start your sanity check.
And that doesn't need to be in the next block, does it? Or it does?
Oh, we're inside the start block now.
We're inside the start. Gotcha. So this is the next block, which is the start, which is still inside of the previous block.
Yeah.
Got it. I see that. Okay.
A hierarchy of bullshit.
So the spacing there is simply for the sake of organization. So if.
Yep. So we want to make sure that the base parent is set to something other than null, and null is basically a reference that this value is not set. It's not 0. It's not a pointer to some guy over there. It's nothing yet.
Say that one more time.
So a null value is something that is not set.
Right.
So if you have a number that's set to null, there is no number there. It's not 0. It's nothing. And technically you can't do that without special stuff in C#, so we're not going to bother with that, but basically null is nothing.
Gotcha. So we're trying to tell you this. So it says if
So open and close parentheses.
Gotcha. Oh, and it's connected. So I hit it once and it automatically makes the open close. That's cool.
Yep.
Base parent. Oops. If base parent.
Yep. And go ahead and make that into a block.
Make it into a block. So
just type the opening curly brace and it'll drop it back one by default, or automatically.
That's cool.
And then just hit enter to drop it down a line.
So now, if base parent. And what about that base parent?
So we are going to set particle systems. So type particle systems equals.
Oh, I added system.
Oh wait, you named it fireworks. You also named it fireworks. So yep. Fireworks equals
particle system. So right now I have it particle system up here, not systems. Which is
erase that and replace that with fireworks.
This particle system?
Because we're going for the variable name. We're not
right. Firework. Oh, okay. So we're referencing this firework or this variable here. Fireworks. Yes. Space equals. And what do I do after that?
Yes. Now reference the base parent.
Equals just means like a regular equals just means reference.
Yeah. Equals assignment.
Equals.
So type.
Gotcha. Assignment. Gotcha. Yeah. So the equal sign means assignment because I know 2 equals together means is true or is equal to.
Yeah. Is equal to. Yes.
Yeah, is equal to.
So we need to extract something from the base parent. So type base parent dot.
Base parent dot. What does the dot do for us here?
That is, we are now inside this namespace, I guess you could call it. So base parent dot get components in children is a function that resides in base parent.
Yeah, so you use the dot whenever you want to access something within a particular variable or object. So it's saying execute the function get component in children from the object base parent.
Got it. Get component
this
in
is
children,
also,
and that's going to be
This is also
fireworks.
what I did before. It gets components in children.
Components in children. Gotcha. So
And then
fireworks,
open,
we're assigning gets components in children.
and because we want a specific type of object of the array, we need to do an open alligator bracket.
Alligator bracket?
The less than sign.
The lesson sign? Less than.
Shift, comma.
Right. Shift, comma. Less than. There we go.
And then we want the types, everything that is of type particle system. So just type particle system.
There we go. Okay.
And that is a function call. So go to the end of that and add those parentheses.
Parentheses. That. Gotcha.
And then add your semicolon.
Ending that line.
Yep. Now, for the sake of making sure this is working, go ahead and swap the private to public on your fireworks variable. And we're just going to keep this here for a quick test.
Gotcha. So what I've done here is if base parent firework equals... we've assigned this to it. Base parent function.
We assigned the result
to get
of
components in
base
children,
parent.
meaning we're getting this particle system.
We're getting all of the particle systems because we get components in children.
Right, get components. And when it's referring to components, it's referring to these here, not this here.
Component is something that is inside the game object. So,
Right.
like how you had a box collider or an Udon behavior, those are components in terminology.
Gotcha. So the thing is, it's not looking for get base parent, get components in children. In children,
that'll
meaning
loop
this is a
over-
child of this.
Yes.
So this is the child. That's the component. No, not the component. That's the child. This is the component that's on the child. And this
So
is
if
the
you're going
variable.
down the hierarchy, it's called child or
And
children.
that's the base parent.
If you're going up the hierarchy, it's called parent or parents.
Gotcha. Get components in children. That makes sense. And why is it why the alligator brackets again?
Because that is a search of a type. We don't want anything other than particle systems. So we type in particle system.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and generally, anytime you see the alligator brackets showing up, it's asking specifically for an object type because
I
it
see.
wants to know, like, hey, what particular type am I supposed to act upon?
Yeah.
Okay.
For the programmers out there, that is called a template.
Okay. If base parent.
So now that we have all that, go ahead and save and pop back to Unity.
Fast as just Control S.
Yeah. So if the star goes away, it's saved. And then wait for Udon to figure itself out.
The star goes
which,
away?
It appears.
Where?
Yeah,
What
if
do I
you
look
make
for that?
any in Visual Studio, pop that up real quick.
Oh, the star go. Yeah, why don't you make it a... Yeah, that, I know what you mean there. So how do I tell when it's done here? It just finishes doing its thing. We go to
Yeah, if you
bases.
can click on anything, it should be done. So go ahead and open the button.
Hold on. Yes, look, it's thinking. There we go.
Yeah.
Bases. Button.
Button.
Base parent. Or bases.
There you go.
Power size 0. Size.
So this is where we're going to look. Don't set that to anything. Just keep that as 0. We're going to use this as our read. We're going to use this to see what it's doing. So go ahead and hit the play button to enter play mode. And if you open up the fireworks dropdown
Fireworks.
on the inspector,
Spectre. Fireworks
Button.
drop down. Button.
go to button.
Button. There we go. Fireworks
Here.
drop down.
Under base parent.
I see.
And we can see we've done it correctly because we have 10 particle systems.
I see.
Ta-da!
So running through this one more time.
Go ahead and exit play mode real quick.
Right. Just so I'm understanding myself here. We opened up public class firework button. Udon shirt behavior. Let's start with that.
So we have a script of name firework button with 2 variables called base parent and an array called particle systems.
Gotcha. And after that, public void
Or
start.
fireworks in your case.
Yeah, or fire. I call it fireworks. Public void start. Wait. I can see it's called fireworks because it says fireworks right here. Right?
Yeah.
That was the result of my
Appeared in
typing
the inspector
this.
as that. Yes.
Got it. Public void start. Open close. So after each line of like function, how do I know when I need the open close brackets?
So a function is a block, so you use the open close brackets. Anything else is basically a line, so you use the semicolon.
Gotcha.
That is pretty much the easiest way to think about that. There's some caveats here and there, but we probably won't even hit them.
Right. Public void start. So this was me starting a function, and then I made a new block within this function.
Yep.
So why do I have a block within a block? Right here for this, as opposed to just having if and then,
Because you can do multiple things after if base parent as returned true.
Got it.
And also because if you want to have multiple lines within that conditional block, you need to have the brackets, or otherwise it'll only do the block or the line immediately after the if.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. If
Right, so now, if you got that.
And base parent isn't a name, that's a particular type of
Nope, base parent is the name of our game object variable up the top. You can name that Gabagoo if you wanted to.
game object variable, which would be this right here. So if
It would be in Unity, it would be it would be that in the inspector, but you can name your variables anything you want to. It's just good to name them something readable so you can figure out what you were doing.
Just for the sake of understanding where everything is going.
Yep. Hababa is now.
Hababa.
Yep. And that would work perfectly fine once you clear the error.
Oh, clear the error. Where do I do it? Down here?
You missed a rename.
Where?
On the if is now if base parent, which is squiggly line. Yeah, always would look for those squiggly lines because it means something's going on.
Got it.
Fun thing you can do to speed up renames like this is if you press go back to Visual Studio real fast.
Mm-hmm.
If you select Hababa and then press Control R and then Control R a second time, it'll start renaming every reference of that variable. So now you can type whatever you want on it, and it'll go ahead and do all 3 of them at once.
Got it. That's handy. Okay.
It's a refactor.
So right down here, it's called Hababa now instead of base parent. And this stuff doesn't play here until I actually hit play, so it doesn't throw it in here until I hit play. Got it.
And also to note, your reference to the game object you had there is now gone because you changed the variable name.
Right. I need to put in bases.
Yep.
Got it.
All right. Let's move on to actually doing something with this.
Got it.
So if we pop back to Visual Studio, and we're going to go inside our interact function. And just a quick note on what the difference is here. The only reason why override is here and not here is because Udon didn't set up their stuff entirely correctly. So we're overriding an existing function in Udon sharp behavior. So that's all that means. So interact is a function that is already defined by the spec in this. So it just says override instead of nothing void. That's all that means. It's completely irrelevant for this tutorial, but it's just some question that might pop up at some point.
Okay.
So on the interact, we want to actually do something. So we're going to do what's called a loop. It is another type of block, kind of like an if, but it keeps running until the check is done. So in this case, we're going to do a for each loop.
For each. What does for each mean?
So for each basically means for each object. So in this case, we're going to do particle system. Oops. PS. For each particle system in our array called particle systems on mine and fireworks on yours, we can iterate over our array here and do stuff. So every loop, this will say, this will handle its own pointer, so you don't have to worry about it. So in particle systems, I'll start at the top and assign that to PS. In this case, that's what I named it. You can name it Gabagoo if you wanted to. So for everyone, we're going to do ps.play.
Okay. So for each, one more time we start with this, going through that line.
Yeah,
for
so...
for each is the loop?
Yes. So we have... Damn it. We have all these freaking particle systems we have to deal with.
Right.
For each... So this is the array. So for each basically does... All right, I am here. That, put that in PS. Run this code. So in this case, it'll be like particle system 1, play.
PS is just what you just said to name.
Yeah. So in this case, I do...
Okay.
So we put the top one in PS, run the code, put the next one down, particle system 2, PS, play, and then it just keeps looping down the array, on and on and on until it hits the end.
Okay, so for each... It's for each, and then open and close brackets, because it's a, well, no, so this is a function, then bracket, or block within the function.
Yep.
And so this is another function because of the open close parentheses. Particle system. Why is it? Enter one. I didn't mean to.
Sometimes IntelliSense doesn't realize that you're trying to autocomplete, so you just start over.
Particle system.
And then you can either give it the recommended name or just type something in.
Something in.
Yep.
There we go.
And now space in.
In meaning...
The keyword saying in this array. And then space again.
In this array.
So in space fireworks.
In fireworks.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Okay, now make that into a block.
Isn't it already into a block? In a block?
Well, make a block for it, rather.
Make a block.
Add your curly braces.
Oh, wrong one. Oh, hold on. Let me do that. And then... Makes it easier, right?
Yep. And then hit enter to add the line. There you go. And something in dot play.
We want it to be a function, so we add the brackets at the end.
Yep. We are calling the play function against each particle system in this array called fireworks.
What is the something in, or what we name this, just PS? What does that come into play?
That is the current index of the array.
Yeah, what does that mean?
So, as I had for my little demo there with the list of particle systems, that is the currently active one in the for each. So it'll take the top one, pop it into that variable called something in, and then it'll run the code with that name. And then it'll go back to the top, set the next one down, and then continue on.
Okay. Gotcha. Display. I'm ending this line.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And that's all we need. So go ahead and save that and pop back to Unity.
It's loading. There we go. Alrighty.
So now go ahead and do a build and test.
Control panel. Build and test.
And Killer Rain. At some point, we should probably go over variable scopes, but we are very quickly running out of time.
Yeah, we are. If I'm going a bit slower than intended, it's because I'm doing my best to, be the idiot who is trying to grasp this, and the reason, like, I'll constantly re-ask and revisit, be like, what does this mean? What does that mean? Until I can, it finally sticks.
Yeah, that's fine. It's you're the one. You and the chat are the ones we're teaching right now.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to go over pretty much a crash course of how to program for this, and this is stuff that people go to college for to learn all the intricate details. We're just trying to go over things in a very high scope to make things run, not so much to learn how to program good.
Yes, got it. Which, if this is first off, it's something if everyone else wishes to revisit at some point, because, there's a lot more stuff here, and considering how much stuff you guys are wanting to run through, wanting to teach, wanting to show, I'd definitely be down to do the rest on another day as well. What the fuck? Why did it do it twice? It did the build and test twice. Maybe this is the more recent version. That's weird.
All right. Anyway, go over and I guess kill one of those, and run over to the button. Hit the big red button.
Got it. So it did all of them.
Yep. And that is a loop. You've done a loop. Huzzah.
Got it. And the reason we call it a loop is because
it continuously runs the same code over and over in a loop until it's done. And this is the first cautionary tale. A loop is a very powerful tool, and much like a gun is a powerful tool, you can also use it to shoot yourself in the foot. A loop has a condition called an infinite loop, where you mess up the exit condition. Really hard to do on a for each, but there are other types of loops called it. Like one's called a for, and the other one's called a while. So while this, do this, or for this condition, do this. We're using for each. That's really hard to do a infinite loop in. You pretty much have to try. But in other cases, if you don't have an exit condition, it'll just keep running that over and over and over and over again until the end of time or until the program crashes. So that is a very good way to cause VRChat to crash.
got it.
So it's something to very much do in your head. So if you pop over to my screen real quick, I'll show you an example of a an infinite loop. So we'll just in this case, while true, this will always return true. So this will just keep going over and over and over again. It's going to shit out something into the debug log. So I'm going to save that. And if I hit play, as soon as it's ready to go, come on. Eventually. There we go. And then we enter play mode. This might crash my Unity, so this should be fun. All right, so that's actually fine. So I can do this, by the way. There's this trigger interact button on the Udon behavior, and if I click that, you can see the button has stopped responding, and so has my Unity. That's because this Udon behavior is currently cycling and just crapping stuff out into the log forever and ever and ever. And now I have... Oh, yeah, it ended. So luckily you can salvage Unity, but that is a very good way to cause 9,205 objects had entered the log during that short little loop.
Fun. Yeah, that'll definitely crash shit.
So loops are something to be very, very careful of, but they save you a whole lot of time and are much more flexible than doing things statically.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Now, another thing to be careful of is Udon is, according to Udon Sharp's developers, somewhere around 1,000 times slower than raw C#. And this is due to how VRChat is running its scripting language. It's not efficient. It is slow as hell. So you want to do as little as possible to gain as much as possible.
Got it.
So I'm going to pop over this script real quick. Actually, I'm just going to do it.
So one thing I guess to discuss is how long do we plan on going today? Or how much time do we have?
I believe our hard cut is 1:30.
1:30. Hard cut.
Ezra, did your plans change at all for that, or is it still 1:30?
1:30 is a-okay.
Gotcha. Okay.
As for the hard cut, or we can go past that?
Oh, as for the hard cut, yeah. Like I do have to stop at 1:30 because I have to get ready for an event at 2.
Gotcha, yeah. Yeah, people were popping their heads in trying to discuss Father Day plans as well that I need to interact with. Let's see.
So I will just go over this to speed us up a little bit.
Got it.
In what's the word I'm looking for? Basically, in a basic sense. So I have taken our firework loop button and changed it slightly. So on interact, we can see that it no longer does a loop. And I have a few more things up in the variables.
Right. Yes, so, you've established integers, floats, and I do understand what those mean.
Yeah. So the way this works is I have taken the loop and I've manually redone it so it will do one index of the loop every so often. So I can spread out the load over multiple frames and not slow everyone down. In this case, it's just going to fire one firework at a time. But if you have a really big, slow workload to work through, that will cause everyone to hitch up and halt and lag if it runs all at the same time.
Yeah.
We want to, split it up. Like on the Stiletto, we have something like 300 portholes.
Yeah.
I did something like this for that, wherein instead of setting all 300 portholes at the same time, which would have caused a bunch of lag because Udon is shit, it also allowed me to do a staggered turn on of each porthole in a very similar method to this. So when interact is triggered, if is running is true, then we'll just return and skip this. If not, we'll set our index to 0. We'll set is running to true, so this won't run again until we're done. And I have a little time variable here called nextFire. That is a floating point value. So every whole number is a second, everything less than a whole number, so 0.1 is 1/10 of a second.
Gotcha.
So we take the current time and put it into nextFire. Then we run this function, this event called update. This is a very dangerous function. This will also kill your performance for your map if you're not careful. Because this runs once every frame. So if you're doing something on a frame that takes more than a frame time to compute, your frame rate will dip down, way the hell down. So the very first thing we do is figure out if we can do nothing. So if we're not running, if not is running, return out. Next, if the current time is not it is less than when the next time we're supposed to fire, then we return out. We do nothing. This is also an array index. So this is where we start doing stuff. So we take the particle systems array at index, in this case 0. So the first one, arrays always start at 0 and count up. So 0, 1, 2, 3 is a 4-element array.
Gotcha.
So we do particle systems 0, play. This is shorthand for take cur index, add 1 to it.
Hence the plus plus.
This is, yeah. So this is now, it's gone from 0 to 1. Then we set our next fire time. So it's the current time plus a delay in seconds, which is up here. So every quarter of a second, we're going to do another one. So that is 0.25 floating point. That's what the F means. Next, we check if we're done. So this is basically what a loop would do. It would run itself and then check a condition to see if we can stop the loop. In this case, if our index is at the end of the array's count, which is dot length, this is the that size 10 we were seeing earlier,
right?
Then is running is false, and we can stop doing this.
Okay.
So it's basically unrolling the loop manually to do it slower.
I see. So you put that in, that ends up staggering it.
Yeah. So if I were to give that a quick swap over to Udon behavior and drop in answers back here. That was firework. Which one? Improved. Oops. Loop wait. There we go. That's what I meant. Firework loop wait. Uncheck that. Use base parent. Drop in bases. Click that to start it up. Eventually. All right, now we're in play. Now we hit trigger interact. It goes blink, 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 blink.
Got it. Nice.
Now,
okay.
There is one last part of this chapter that I want to go over. Just to get this going. There is a problem with programmers. They take pride in their work. And that is a very dangerous thing, because code has a problem, or a tendency to bloat and become a lot more than it was ever supposed to be, as people keep adding new stuff in and adding new stuff in. There is a very important thing you got to know and to keep in mind when programming. Always be ready to throw your shit out the window when it stops working. Because at some point, it is no longer worth maintaining and better to start from scratch. So don't get attached to your code. Don't think of it as your baby, your brainchild. think of it as a little shopping list. If you're done with that shopping list and it's no longer relevant, throw it out, throw it in recycling, write a new shopping list. It's a tool. It is not your car. It is the screwdriver you use to do stuff to the car.
Yeah. It's a tool to get something done.
Yes. So, do not be afraid to throw out bad code. I have thrown out more code than has gone into production, and it is better for it because of bad ideas, bad processes, and ideas that have changed midway through.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Yeah, and I don't see myself getting attached to the code itself because I personally would take more pride in what was, what happened, not what everything I wrote to make it happen.
So I am going to very quickly toss it back to Esarai because we need to get going.
Yeah, we do. I'm trying to figure. So I'm at this point, I'm trying to figure out what to do. There are people that are trying to poke their head in regards to, hey, Father's Day this, Father's Day that. And there's a lot here that I want to continue to cover. But I'm also trying to take the time to process and get used to certain things, and I'm sure some people in chat are as well. So that's not like all, so much all at once. So I've been taking it slower to make sure I truly grasp this stuff as opposed to just, fly through it and go, okay, you said this, cool, I believe that. Taking time crawling through it, understanding what is that, asking over and over again to really, really derive those different tools and, codes, variables, names, etc.
So
really
the thing
drive
about
it all
programming is it's not about rote memorization.
Mm-hmm.
It is not. You don't have to remember your quadratic functions, and you don't have to remember the exact latitude, longitude of Timbuktu.
Yeah.
90% of programming is Googling that shit.
That's fair. For me, it's trying to remember things like, the order of operations, when to have, the brackets and when to start and end a block, when to, end the line, all that sort of stuff. For me, it's a lot of figuring out that and what certain... Long story short, what this means, yes. And it's just stuff that you kind of just do need to remember. Right.
They will slow you down until you know how to avoid it and deal with it properly. In that to that extent, don't worry too much about proper formatting. Eventually it'll become like muscle memory about how to get things all placed correctly. You will shit out buggy code. You will come up with stuff that runs too slow. It is always a learning process. You always strive to get, as long as you strive to get better,
yep,
you will start writing better and better code.
Of course, it is, again, one of those, invest time sort of things. So, anyways, to let a lot of this sort of stuff process and also deal with the, the people sticking their heads in and going, day.
Well, we have this thing.
Wait, what?
Swap back to my screen.
Oh, yeah, I got it. Yes, exactly. We're going to run through that. Schedule for the upcoming week is not as busy, so I'll be able to figure out a time to do this again and continue to run through with it if you guys are cool with that.
Hell yeah.
So we came up with this spreadsheet because we just kept running into random reschedules and stuff like that, and it was a pain in the goddamn ass to
stuff kept happening.
Play telephone
we were gonna do this Wednesday night, and then suddenly the night before, Bruns was like, "Oh, by the way, Fractured Thrones mission." We're like, "Shit." But honestly, I do like also having it in the morning like this on the weekend because there's certain people in European time zones that are able to tune in as well.
The problem with the weekend going forward right now is that I am going to be on vacation for a week starting next weekend. So the next available time slots we have is probably tomorrow night at 5 p.m.
Got it. I will not be available for that, but anyways, we'll discuss. We will discuss availability.
Hell yeah! And quickly before we head out, I just wanted to point out to everyone in chat who has downloaded the pack to follow along, there is a model in there. The Paladin revolver is included in this, and it is included under a Creative Commons attribution, no commercial share alike license. So if you want to use that on assets or in like on avatars or in your world, feel free to do so. And in the future, I'm also going to be putting up the pack for the other 3 Shardwork rifles that are part of this.
Those are so fucking cool.
I'm really glad you enjoy them.
Yeah, no, I was showing them up to Tosha. I was showing them off to Tosha and a couple other people a few days ago.
If we wanted to, I can bring up the really fast. I can bring up the Udon version of the Paladin, which was the first one that I started with, and just show the difference between VRChat 2.0 or VRC SDK 2.0 and what Udon is capable of doing. If we're up for that, like, give me about 2 minutes to get my VR headset set up.
Okay.
Yeah, sure, we got time for that.
Yep. Let's see. Chapter 2, we can cover sound control and networking. Is there anything we want to do to fill the last hour? Right, I know what we can do. Over in the back here, we have a panel of speeds.
And fill the last hour.
So
we're not going to be going for the full hour. We're probably going to be wrapping it up right after he presents the rifle guns here stuff, just so I can go downstairs, deal with what needs to be dealt with, and also retain and practice with a bit of what I've picked up here at the moment. And also go through the VOD. Also, that way the VOD doesn't get too long.
Yeah. In that case, if you would go ahead and focus on my screen real quick, I will apply some homework.
Waffle.
So, in the back here, so over here we have all that stuff, and over here we have a panel of speeds. Now, because TextMesh Pro is really dumb at importing, these are probably all garbled at the moment. But we have 3 buttons. We have default speed, turtle speed, and carver speed. They all have a script attached to them already, with 4 inputs that are preset on every button. So you can see that default is 3634, and carver speed over here is 1020, 1030.
Right.
So your homework, class, is to use everything you've learned in here, except loops. It won't take loops. To go use the documentation or whatever you need to go into player speed button, which is that one, and make this interact set the player speed to these values. So WaffleSlapper, I will be in VR chat, the VR chat channel. If you have any questions about how to get Udon running, or if you're having problems with the script, feel free to @me. I'll let Esarai say if he's all right with being added, but he's busy setting up VR. So go ahead and @me if you need any questions answered about how to get the stuff running. There's a lot that we weren't able to cover in this tutorial.
Yeah, because it takes time, and the being able to apply what is being apply and retain what is being learned is equally as much important.
So this is a very deep iceberg that's going to it's going to require a lot of effort to become master at it. But luckily, C# is one of those programming languages very high level, which means it's very abstracted away from the machine. So you don't have to worry about any memory management. You don't have to worry about pointers. You don't have to worry about threads or any of those really big things in programming that are really big issues.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really simple to deal with. So
handy.
It's a much easier programming language to learn. But yeah, I will make myself available most hours of the day, as long as I'm not at work, to answer any questions you have.
Right.
Alrighty.
Oh, yeah,
So
let me pull up your stream here.
Just in
Yeah, I
time.
now have my VR up and running. And also, I'll be like, if you have questions, feel free to ask me. And if anyone in chat has questions, feel free to ask me in the Discord server. That's everything's like I love answering questions and helping people out. So if you need help, I'm in Haven's Discord. Ping me. I will do my best. All right. So I have brought up here the VR Chat SDK 2.0 version of the Paladin Revolver. Now, this is the implementation I chose to use the older version just so that it was more compatible with things that were already existing at the time. And one of the things you notice about it is that it is, ooh, what just happened to my hand? Okay. Like everything you see here is all part of the model. There's very little physicality, like the gun doesn't do anything. We've loaded it, we've selected a crystal. It does some shooty. Wow, that was loud. Oof.
Yeah, we don't have the audio on our end because we're just looking at the desktop.
Oh, yeah, we're just looking at the desktop. So, yeah, let me. I don't want to deafen myself with my own. Oops.
Good idea.
Don't want to deafen myself with that. Let's go to.
It's world sounds.
World. Yeah, world sounds down. Cool.
By the way, Esarai, Michael has a question. Is that map live?
Is this map live? Map is not currently live because I am still, after all this time, a new user and I can't publish it publicly. So yes, it is uploaded, but I am incapable of actually making it available for people to test because we got a lot of cool stuff in here. These are works in progress. We got the other 3 Shardwork rifles. There is also a mini game right now. We can go skeet shooting.
Oh, I didn't know this was here.
Yeah, so I'm not good at. I can do this with the Armstrong, but with the Paladin, it's a bit. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so that exists, but this is what we were able to do with the with VRC SDK 2.0. Let's go ahead and hop on over to the original version of this, which was this guy.
The original 3.0 version?
Yep. The original Udon 3.0. And you can see also that it's a little bit different because the textures, these are fully PBR and we have gravity. Oop, hello. But also we have physical, like this thing is physically simulated. Touch the loader to the magazine to reload it, and then you can swing it closed. Oh yeah, and it has a weird sound effect. Boop, like that. And if I recall, let's see. Oh, why are the tooltips are hidden? Oh boy.
Yeah, some options.
So, fun thing you can do is, because of that, if you wanted to be a badass, you can dual wield these. All right. And I forgot that feature only works if you've expended all rounds in the magazine. So, whoop, yeah. And there was a little code bug you saw there. See how the speed loaders that were in it were still, they weren't fully, what's the word? They hadn't disappeared yet. That's because of the way these things are set up, is that now I've actually entered into an unrecoverable state. So these 2 guns are kind of busted. Let's just put those back.
You broke it.
Yep, I broke my own shit. Which is relatively frequent. So I would like to be able to just do this tap thing, but we've just discovered that there is a bug there in that if you do that tapping, then the loader up here will not respawn, which is a problem. So it has to be like that. But being able to flick it is a feature that came from having access to the dang it, my floor space has moved. Having access to the physical transform of these objects lets me do that. And that was something that was previously in VRC SDK 2 hidden. So all of the cool features there just would not normally be capable in 2.0. And we're going to next time we're going to show you like bits and pieces of how to start setting up more complicated behaviors like that. Oh, and here's a fun one. The crystals on this one are actually like physically modeled, so you have to insert them into the gun. But then this also creates a little bit of a nightmare trying to navigate the colliders to actually get it to close again. Yeah, so stuff like this, more advanced behaviors like this are where we are headed. And I just wanted to give a brief preview. So yeah, I'm going to hop on out of this and be right back over there.
Alright, I like it. Good shit. Good shit. But yeah, from there, I'm probably going to cut the tutorial and set up a date to continue with it, so they can proceed with Father's Day stuff and make sure retain what's been had here, do with the homework, and also, you know, cut the VOD before we hit 3 hours, just so it's not this one big, oh my god, you know, session for a lot of people.
And I am personally sorry at the beginning there. I started rambling and going all over the place about how to actually read code. It sounded better in my head, and then it just kind of fell apart there. But we started getting more coherent towards the end there. So.
Yep, all works once we started, like, you know, going through it. You kind of gave a brief overlay, like a summary of it, describing it, and then the practical application is when it starts to make more sense of the, you know, the overview. So, with that being said, guys, thanks for tuning in. I am going to find out who we can who we can slap here.
Kaz is playing Phasmophobia.
Is he now? I did say hi to Shelly earlier. Is she still alive? Oh no, she's not. Avenito's just chatting. NG is up. Brun's doing Arma 3. Kaz.
For a name you probably haven't heard in a while, Baradul is playing MechWarrior 5.
Oh yeah, it's Slap Baradul. Alright. Thank you very much for joining, guys. I will see you all very soon. Probably tomorrow.
I expect that homework on my desk by tomorrow.
Ah! Yeah, probably a MechWarrior tomorrow. Catch you guys then.
That's it.
All right, have a good night.